So in case you guys missed it from my stream earlier this week, I went 12-0 for my first time this year. I've been playing a little bit of BR since MLB 19 and 20, but like I haven't been super into it. But this year I'm going all in on BR, and just in general I've been playing a lot this week. I've learned a lot on how to do well in BR. Today I'm gonna give you guys draft advice. I can go through a draft, show you guys how I like to choose a team, and give you guys the best tips I can give you to help you draft the best 12-0 capable team. Let's get right into it. What is going on, everyone? Before we get into the draft tips, I appreciate you guys watching the video. In case you guys are brand new and have not hit that subscribe button, we are uploading daily MLB The Show tip videos and things like that. So, you know, if you want to get better at Battle Royale like we're showing you today, get better at ranked seasons, anything in the game, we have a hitting or pitching tip or no money spent tip video for you. Make sure you check out the channel, browse through, see if there's anything that will help you. Also, I do stream on Twitch every day at 1 p.m. today. I had to take off because I was getting my vaccine. I'm finally vaccinated, baby. But we are going to be going back at it again every day for the time being at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come hang out, watch me play BR on stream and things like that, make sure you come by and hit a follow on the Twitch and come hang out with us. But now, let's talk about our BR drafts and how I like to draft a team in BR. And my best tips I can give you guys to help you guys draft a good team. So we go to our online modes and we go into Battle Royale. All right, so looking at all of these players, this is a good first round. So first of all, one common mistake I see a lot of people make in BR is drafting pitching. I mean, especially starting pitching, you really don't want to draft diamonds for that. You should try to use your diamond players as an opportunity to build up big bats, make as good of a lineup as possible. There are a lot of good silver, gold relievers in this game, and you see to bolster the bullpen more than anything. So looking at this first round, I would avoid Tom Glavine no matter what. He actually is one of the best starting pitchers in the game, but I don't think it's worth drafting a starting pitcher in BR. Goose Gossage here is one of the best relievers in the game, and if the hitters weren't anything special, I would be drafting Goose. Honestly, you know, he's solid, but he has velocity. But we have to remember in BR, we're playing on All-Star, and you know, velocity isn't the only thing that we need to have a good pitcher, and Goose is definitely solid, but we still want to use his opportunity to get a bat. Roberto Clemente here is a great little early round pick, except for the fact he lacks power. He has 61 and 70 power, and don't get me wrong, I think this card is definitely solid, a good card, but you know, he does play right field, which you know, is a kind of position we could throw a bad defender at and get a bigger power bat out there, and we're going to pass on him and go for the pizza man, Mike Piazza. Obviously, he's got the best power versus both sides, 92 and 102. And he also plays a premium position at catcher, where there aren't that many great catchers in the game. So we're going to choose Mike Piazza for the power. And this you'll see is a general theme of my BR drafts. Drafting for power, trying to draft certain niche players who do hit for power at maybe positions where there aren't many power hitters. And that's kind of what I like to focus on. Looking at this round here, again, we have a silver starter. Marco Gonzalez isn't really a starter you want to target. Wilmer Flores isn't bad, but very lackluster hitting-wise. Andrew McCutchen is actually pretty solid for a bet, but I think we're going to pass on him for the silver Pedro Martinez. So we're looking for relievers that have some solid velocity and good pitch differentials. We want a good mix of fastballs and breaking balls that are slower. And Pedro here is a 98 mile per hour four seam, but also an 85 mile per hour circle change. I really enjoy this Pedro card. Okay, so now we got our first bronze round. There are only a few kind of players you want to pick with bronze rounds. There are certain glitchy relievers who have very good velocity and a solid pitch mix, even as bronze players. Guys like Jeurys Familia here, let's take a look at him, has pretty solid velocity, but the key thing he struggles with is differentials. All of his pitches are above 90 miles an hour. That's not going to be very difficult to time, so we want to go for him. Matt Beatty isn't a great bat, and Josh Rojas is very weak at the plate. So we're going to burn a starter round. Ideally for our starting pitchers, unless we get a couple different glitchy starting pitchers that some people like to pick, we're going to try to use the starters for bronze and common rounds. All right, so this is a good round here. I mean, David Peterson isn't a great starter, obviously, so we could either burn the starter here, or we could pick Justin Upton right away, get a left fielder who has 78 and 88 power, which is definitely pretty solid. He's not going to be our starter, but he could just be a bench bat left fielder. So we're going to pick Jay up here. None of these bats or relievers are very impressive. No great velocity or differentials on the reliever. Also, the bats really aren't impressive, so we're going to burn a starter here. All right, so we have another diamond round. This is an interesting choice here. Aaron Nola is basically an automatic no pick. We don't want to pick a starting pitcher unless it's a, say, silver at best. DJ LeMahieu isn't a bad second baseman, but he doesn't hit for much power. Manny Machado does have power, especially versus lefties. 73 versus righties isn't too bad. And then we have Wander Franco, who is a switch-hitting shortstop who can field. This would definitely be between Machado and Franco, that is for sure. I'm kind of leaning towards Wander Franco. I haven't used him, but I bet you a switch-hitting shortstop would kind of be pretty solid, and he does have good power versus righties. And he's definitely a more well-rounded card. You know, Machado does have 89 power versus lefties, but he does kind of struggle versus righties, and we're going to face a lot of righties in BR, so we're going to pick Wander Franco here. Here, none of the bats, again, are impressive. Nothing crazy on the reliever either, so Joe Ross will be burned for the rotation. Yeah, we got Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini is, like I said before, when we're picking players, you want to look for players who have good power, and there are usually some good BR players who are gold, silver, things like that, especially the players they add like Mancini to the BR program who have great power versus both sides. And Mancini here, 79, 86 power is solid, but he also has pretty good contact. This is a pretty good, well-rounded hitter here. He could also play at first base, which, in case we do draft right fielder, we could move him to first base. That is definitely something we want to target. Ken Giles is actually a solid reliever too, but his issue, like I said, he doesn't have much differentials. He has 2 fastballs in the high 90s, both the exact same speed, and a slider. So we're going to pass on Ken Giles. Wade Boggs definitely is not the pick. He lacks power. And we're going to go for Trey Mancini. Another great silver round here. This is why we want to pick power here. Eugenio Suarez is one of those cards that has stupid power, and he is a silver. He's a silver card. You may think, oh, he's only silver. He's not going to hit that well. This card is one of the best hitters in the game right now. 88, 90 power is crazy. He also has great inside edge. And you look at the team, you could definitely use a nice hitting, power hitting third baseman. We can get away with the bad defense there. You also look at Blake Trinan. Honestly, Trinan is a pretty solid reliever too. He does have a sinker and a cutter four seam, but he does have a bad inside edge. If you are unsure whether to pick the reliever or the hitter, I usually suggest to lean towards the good hitter. The hitting is going to help you a lot more than pitching, because it's kind of difficult to pitch well in BR. So definitely capitalize on hitting whenever you get the chance. All right, another thing to look out for when drafting your team is lefties. Obviously, you have 8 relievers in the game now. The goal is to get at least 3 good lefty relievers. And here, Jake Diekman is a definition of a great reliever. On paper, he isn't the best looking. You know, he does have a solid pitch mix of a fastball, sinker, slider. But the thing with Jake Diekman that makes him so great is that he has a kind of quirky release, and he's a lefty. He throws across his body. It's not easy to read. And taking notes on guys like this, like Diekman, are good to have. There are a lot of pitchers who, you know, maybe don't have the best attributes on paper, but have glitchy releases that allow you to use them in BR, and they're silvers, bronzes, things like that. So Diekman is one of those guys you definitely want to try to pick. But also, just to discuss as well, Chris Bassey here could be a starter if you did want to go for a starter. He does have a sinker, cutter, four seam, changeup, curveball, so a solid pitch mix for a starting pitcher. Good differentials, like I said before, but like I said, we want to pick relievers whenever possible. We would have only picked Bassett if everyone else wasn't good. All right, here we go. Edwin Encarnacion. Like I said before, we want to draft power hitters. And if you are sacrificing defense, have them at a position where they can get away with it, like first base, third base, right field, left field. Those are the key positions you can kind of get away with bad defense. Edwin Encarnacion here is 88 power versus both sides and a very good swing. So honestly, I would suggest every time you get a chance to draft a guy like Edwin, 100% pick him. Here's another good power bat, Mike Moustakas. Second base is a position where you don't get much power. If you get that opportunity to draft a big power guy like Moustakas, who plays second base, definitely pick him. Not many players in the game have high power who play second base, so definitely pick Moustakas, a guy like him, every time. All right, so here we have basically 2 options. We definitely don't want to pick the gold starting pitcher. We got Luis Gil, who's got a 98 fastball, 87 slider, 85 changeup. Honestly, a solid little reliever. And then Kevin Kiermaier, who is one of those guys that has really good defense at center, which is a position we want good defense. But also, he does have a glitchy swing. His attributes are very low, but one thing you'll learn in BR is that some players can be good without having crazy hitting attributes. Guys like Kiermaier, Adalberto Mondesi can have like 50 contact, but still hit absolute ropes. It's weird how it works. I'm pretty confident we can get a good left-handed left fielder, like a Jock Peterson or something like that, to play left field over Justin Upton. Luis Gil will be my pick here, but I don't think there's any wrong pick between Gil and Kiermaier. All right, so we got a common round, and like I said before, our commons should be used either as starting pitchers or on the bench if need be. Corey Abbott here is basically an automatic pick. All right, so we do have a bronze round here. The bats, again, aren't too impressive. Brian Goodwin actually doesn't seem like too bad of a bench bat. 66 and 69 power isn't too bad. But Matt Schramm is always one of those guys like a Jake Diekman who has a pretty solid release for me. And for a bronze lefty reliever, he has 2 fastballs, curveball, slider, changeup, which is a good pitch mix. So we're going to go for Matt Schramm for a lefty in the bullpen. Now, looking at this round here, again, none of these bats are too impressive. Manuel Margot, Brandon Nimmo are not great cards to pick in my use. Not great swings or anything like that. Trevor Rosenthal, though, has nasty velocity. He throws high 90s in his four seam. So we're going to go for Trevor Rosenthal. Ryan Stanek may not be too bad, but Rosenthal is definitely an answer for the bullpen. Man, this is definitely not an impressive silver round. Sometimes you get these drafts where you just don't get anything too great out of any silvers or anything like that. And Yimi Garcia isn't the most ideal reliever on paper, but he definitely looks like he'll get the job done. He'll have to at this round because the other hitters are going to be literally useless. So we'll use the reliever and get a good silver. Again, another unimpressive silver round. For some reason, this game really wants us to have Brandon Nimmo or Brett Gardner. Andrew Knapp may not be a bad backup catcher, but we are going to go for Will Smith, get that third lefty in the bullpen. He is at least a lefty, maybe not the best on paper by any means, but he does have solid speed differentials. 93, 82, and 78 miles per hour are a good mix in terms of pitch speeds. So pick him for our third and final lefty in the bullpen. Ooh, this is a solid round here. For a bronze round, we're probably going to go for Pablo Sandoval. He's going to be coming off the bench. He does hit pretty well versus righties. Here is a great bronze round here. Chris Davis, 72 overall. Again, the fielding isn't anything crazy, but like I said, we want to look for power, and Chris Davis has 87 and 85 power. And like I said, we aren't starting him. We have a good enough outfield. We probably shouldn't need to start Chris Davis. So he's just a bench bat, and this is a perfect bench bat to have. Power versus both sides. Yes, we got that lefty left fielder, like I said, Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker is one of those guys that's an automatic pick for me. He has really good hitting attributes versus righties. He has a really good inside edge too. And like I said, left field is a position you can kind of shove a bad defender out there. So we're going to do that. Rowdy Tellez is also a solid pick, but we have first base taken up, and Edwin Encarnacion can only play third after that, and we kind of got that taken too. So we're going to do left field, put Justin Upton on the bench. And that is the draft. That is how I like to go through my drafts. And just to summarize everything, there are a few keys to it. First of all, try not to draft good starting pitching. There are only a few guys that are starting pitchers that I would even consider drafting, guys like, say, Dustin May, Sandy Alcantara. If a starter is like a silver or below, and they have a pretty good pitch mix, and you don't have a good reliever in that round, and you kind of need to pick a pitcher, definitely pick a starting pitcher if need be. But other than that, use your starting pitchers for bronzes and commons whenever possible. Second, we want to try to draft for power. Look for players that can hit for power, especially at positions like shortstop, second base, center field, where there aren't many great power hitters. We want to try to pick players who can hit for some pop. Do try to focus a little bit on defense at shortstop, center field at least, because that is really a valuable position to have defense. But you do want to make sure you can still hit with these guys. But we try to pick players that you can hit with. And finally, 3 lefties in the bullpen. The rest have righties in the bullpen. Try to use your good pitcher rounds for relievers whenever possible, and just have a great bullpen. Don't be afraid to start your relievers to start a BR run. Their energy, I find, comes back a little quicker than, say, starting pitchers. And I think it's definitely the wave for BR. So I'm going to make an example lineup. I'm going to show you guys my mentality of how I set up the lineup in BR. All right, so there we go. I just made the lineup, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of my mentality with this lineup. First of all, I realized after the draft, I didn't draft a primary center fielder with good defense, which isn't the biggest deal. We got a really good bunch of bats, and I think all 8 of these hitters in his lineup, I feel confident in my hitting. Just because a position may be weak defensively or one person may be in a bad spot, don't redraft. If you got hitters out there that you are confident in hitting with, definitely play out the team and keep that run going. I think this team all through the lineup has great hitters, and our goal is to try to out-hit our opponents so the score doesn't get even close. I want to score as many runs as possible against their bad pitching. Second of all, you want to try to stack your better hitters towards the top of the lineup whenever possible. Get them up as much as possible in a game. Obviously, in a real ranked seasons game, for example, you would set up your line so maybe you have like a speed guy lead off and you have blah, blah, blah order. But for BR, you got to treat it differently. These are 3-inning games. You only have an X amount of at-bats for your best hitters. So you want to try to get them at the top of the order. And kind of like we had talked about, remember, we are facing bad pitchers. A lot of people don't draft good starting pitching. A lot of people will draft some common bronze, right-handed, left-handed pitchers that aren't too great. So I like to use the first 3 batters or hitters who, maybe aren't the best per se, but, say they face a very bad righty, which does happen a lot in BR to start off a game. They get a matchup at the first inning, they get a chance to hit like a solo homer. So I like to lead off guys like Jesse Winker, Jorge Soler, Mr. Edwin Encarnacion here, and also Mike Moustakas, who have big power in that first inning. So if I do face a bad pitcher who happens to be a right-handed pitcher, then, they have to face one of my bronze hitters who play above their attributes, and, I get the best at-bat for that player. Guys like Mike Piazza could hit third. In case there is a good pitcher, he has enough contact and power, he will hit well against anyone. Second of all, a key is balancing your order. Spread out your lefties and righties whenever possible. So I have Winker leadoff, then my next lefty is in the 5 spot. Last thing you want is if someone puts in a righty or a lefty, your lineup to be too off kilter and you just become automatic outs. Mix up your lineup so in case there is an opposite-handed pitcher faced, you don't have 3 of the same handedness, or at least 3 batters who are worse versus righties or lefties, whichever thing, in a row. So looking at my lineup here, for example, you got Jesse Winker, who crushes righties, Trey Mancini, who is a little weak versus righties, but good all around, and Piazza, who is better versus lefties, but again, good all around. Then the next 3, we have Suarez, who is better versus lefties, Moustakas, who's better versus righties, and Edwin, who is equal versus both sides, but he is a righty, so we want him ideally versus a lefty. And then to end the order, we have Wander Franco, who's a switch hitter, so in case there is a righty out in this point in the game, he actually does hit better versus righties and lefties. And then Chris Davis, who's like Edwin, who is good versus both sides, but again is a righty, so we want to prepare in case there is a righty on the mound. And finally, like I said before, don't be afraid to start your relievers. I like to choose a couple relievers who are like silver relievers in my drafts that I like to start in games. Like guys like Pedro Martinez will be someone I'll start in the game pretty often. Look for like a pitcher who has like a solid mix of pitches, not your best reliever, but like a middle of the road reliever in your bullpen, and start them out in some games. Because, like I said, a lot of people are preparing for a bad pitcher to start off a game, and you don't want the worst pitcher out there. You still want to have your best relievers in your bullpen in case you need to go to them in a save situation or anything like that. But the key is to choose someone like I would use Pedro, Trevor Rosenthal, or Yimi Garcia. One of those 3 is like a starting type pitcher in these games. You could start them over your starting pitchers in the games. And the final key, this has happened when you're playing the game. When you're playing in a BR game, make sure you always have a righty and a lefty warmed up. So the second the game loads in, warm up a righty and a lefty. Not your best relievers, but just warm them up in that first inning. And every time that you put one-handed pitcher in, warm up that same hand in again. Have a righty and a lefty in the pen whenever possible. So for me, I would start Pedro, and then after that, I would blow into the game. I'd probably warm up Trevor Rosenthal and Will Smith, have them ready just in case I get that third batter. I already have them warmed up, ready to go. And that is my general tips of setting up a BR team, making the lineup, and things like that. I'll go into more depth about playing in game and my mentality with hitting and pitching in BR within the next couple days. So that will definitely be a thing. So hit the subscribe button and keep up with the notifications so you know when I upload that video. But these are my tips of constructing and drafting a BR team. Hopefully they helped you guys with that. I appreciate you guys watching. If you hit that thumbs up, if you liked it, I'll see you on the next one. Deuces.